Black spending matters.
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 Black people wake up.
Welcome to our first edition of Black Spending Matters. We are your hosts. I am Jamil Patterson, and over to my right, but your left, is the founder of Black Spending Matters,
Joy Tyson.
In studio, we have a very special guest. Her name is Shevon White Sampson, and she is the founder of Sowers Reap International, and she's here to talk about her board game, which is called To Sow or Not to Sow. How are you doing, Shevon?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Joy? How are you, Jamil?
I'm wonderful, yes.
I'm doing real good this morning.
Yes. So, what was the concept behind your game called To Sow or Not to Sow?
Well, To Sow or Not to Sow was birthed out of really my life experience. I grew up in a neighborhood that was not so great. I went to a very small church where we were supposed to be encouraged and move towards whatever the doctrine of the church was at the time. But I was really discouraged in going to the church and coming into the community and seeing all the negativity and just really wondering where God was in finances and I would look at everyone prospering and everyone doing well, and I grew weary in watching this, and I began to ask a bunch of questions and do a bunch of research, and what came out of that was a board game, and it basically tells you all of the biblical principles regarding how to prosper and put God first and be a blessing to your community and those people that are around you.
What is the significance of the Bible verse Luke 6:38? And it reads, "Give, and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap, for with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." Interesting. So what's the significance of that verse to the game?
Yes, in the game, it pretty much teaches you how to be a good steward over the things that God has entrusted you with. In addition to that, how to be more of a blessing and help individuals that are around you. What I've learned through this process is that there are two systems in place. And there's the system that, obviously operate outside of the Bible and outside of what God has set in place for us. And that system is a little more selfish. It pretty much don't care about who it hurt, who it runs over. As you probably know, like even with the real estate market, you've seen what happened years ago. They didn't pretty much care about who it affected, who became homeless, and all of that stuff. And a lot of people got hurt during that, and a lot of people lost a lot of things. Well, in the kingdom system of provision, which is biblical based, his system is based on giving. And when you give, it'll be given back to you. In the board game, it goes over all of those principles.
That sounds awesome. Can you give us a brief example of how you play the game?
Yes, I can. So in the game, in the beginning of the game, I don't know if you can see this, but everyone is giving a card like this. And this card pretty much tell you what your occupation is, how much money you make, how much you have in a bank, and it's loaded with debt. Everyone start out in the game loaded with debt because we're teaching you how to work your way out of debt and get into a dream and a vision that's bigger than yourself. So everyone would pick a card, and then on the game, you would go through the process of landing on different spaces. One is a paycheck. When you land on that space, you will get your paycheck. And then at that time, you would have an option. Do you want to designate a certain amount to give to widows, orphans, help out in the community, be a good steward and help out with kingdom initiatives? Or do you want to keep it for yourself? Depending on what happens, there are certain outcomes that will allow you to hurry up and eliminate your bills, or it may dig you deeper into debt. all of this is not something that I just came up with. It's something that I literally experienced in my life. I mean, I started working when I was 14 years old, and I became a good steward and watching what I spend and learning how to budget, as well as giving to different things, not being cold-hearted, in certain situations. All of that led me through a path of, by the time I was 19, I had my first duplex. By the time I was 23, I had my first triplex. By the time I was 27, I owned my own home in addition to these properties. In addition to that, I had a daycare and a beauty salon. I did all of this stuff without education. I did it because I had a budget, I had a plan, and all of that stuff is biblical. So in this process, in the toolkit, in the board game, I show you how, if you have a vision and you write it down and make it clear and be a good steward and think of something that's bigger than you that can be a blessing to others, I believe God will honor it and you will make your way prosperous. The goal is to be a blessing.
So basically you're saying that you start out with the game, you start out with some type of like financial scenario.
That's right.
As far as maybe like, does it have your occupation or how much money you have in your savings, how much you get bi-weekly, like an annual salary? Is that what it is initially in conjunction with like your debt?
It is on the card. It has exactly how much your monthly salary is.
Okay.
And every time you land on that space, you will receive that salary.
Okay.
Then it has what you have in your checking account.
And then and then as you move around the game, there's certain events that can pop up that you have to deal with.
As you move around, so you start here on the board, and it says collect your paycheck, and you pretty much prepare to pay your utilities.
Okay.
Pay all your obligations. And then as you move around the board, you land on paycheck. You will get your paycheck, and that's when you have an opportunity to decide if you want to be a blessing or hoard it all for yourself, basically. If you decide that you definitely want to be a blessing, you have an opportunity to pull a card that is filled with many blessings. It's filled with different things that will, and all this stuff is biblical from my life experience. I can tell you a whole bunch of scenarios, but I know we're limited on time.
Black Spending Matters is dedicated to helping Black entrepreneurs advertise their products and services. We are striving to provide a platform that Black consumers will utilize in effort to support Black-owned businesses. As you all know, Black businesses continue to struggle to maintain in today's economy where Blacks spend over $1 trillion on purchasing products and services in the U.S. There is no reason we as a people should struggle to have our own businesses when we possess that much spending